Hello, today we're doing a basic building block of code and we're going to be doing the camel case. Now, take a scenario. Here we have our desert and wandering on our desert is our Bactrian camel with its two humps. What on earth has this got to do with computing really? Well, if we take a look at those two humps closely, I've written the word camel case, and if I make those C's really nice and large, you see they kind of fit around the camel itself, and this is where the name has come from, and it's terminology of how we write certain words using code. Now this is a basic building block of code, so this humped way of writing code appears in most languages. Okay, there's we have a capital C there, and a capital C there. But also notice down there we have no gap. So this is the perfect example of a quick camel case. However, I'm just going to start by describing it in terms of writing websites. Right. You may have seen occasionally at the top of a web page in its web address %20. And you've kind of gone, well, what does the %20 mean? Well, the %20 actually relates to a special kind of code called ASCII code. Now, basically, it converts letters into numbers. And remember, a computer only likes numbers. But this kind of percentage business, that's different. So the % sign there, that's a symbol. And it doesn't mean percent in terms of web pages. What it actually means is a hexadecimal number from this ASCII thing that I've been talking about. So I'm going to say hex here from ASCII. This 20, well, that's our number. And that comes from the code of ASCII. So there we have this. So both of those, the hex and the code together, come from something called the ASCII, ASCII table. Okay, so what do we mean by ASCII? Well, it's American Standard Code for Information Interchange. Now, by that, let's think. If I was going to write an A, well, the code for A is 97. And the code for B is 98. Well enough, the code for space is equal to 32. But you hang on, 32, didn't I say 20% or %20 earlier? I'm pretty certain I did. So let's look at this. Well, that's actually the denary decimal. But computers, well, computers prefer binary. So they prefer ones and zeros. And we prefer denary decimal. I'll just put DD there for denary decimal. And because we like that, they like that, and we can't quite come to do all our mathematics in binary, we write halfway in between in hex. And in hex, 32 denary decimal is equal to 20 hexadecimal. So that's our hex. So 20 hexadecimal is equal to 32 denary decimal. So that is why you'll see %20 every time you put a space inside a URL for a web page. So let's have a look at it. If I was to have a file name and it was my first web page, .htm. That would have appeared as it's gone through the internet as my %20 first %20 web %20 page .htm. Well, that's just plain confusing and wrong, and it even confuses computers. So instead, we're going to rewrite the way we write it. So we're going to make a compromise that's easier for the computer that we can understand. Now what we do is I take that space and say, okay, I'm not going to use that space there. Instead, I'm going to capitalize the letter immediately after the space. So we write my, capital F, now no space, first, capital W, because remember we've got rid of that space, web, capital P, page .html or HTML. There you go. And this is called CamelCase. Now you'll notice that the beginning part here, right at the very front, is we haven't capitalized the M, and that's because it wasn't replacing a space. There was nothing there that we needed to get rid of, therefore we didn't need to make that M a capital. Sometimes you may see a capital letter at the beginning, so Jane Smith would have a capital J at the beginning. And the reason you have a capital J there is because Jane is a noun. It's that simple. You're using the standard rules of English. So when you're referring to something that is named, there's a noun, in that respect, then we would capitalize that. And of course then, in this case, we'd actually capitalize anyway, but so it doesn't hurt. But it's very obvious to see where our different words are coming from. And this, if we go back to the old bacterium camel, there we go. There's our two humps. Yeah. And that is why we use CamelCase.